Welcome back finally to another episode of the Hold That Thought podcast. I'm your host, Aisha Pali, and today I'm going to get into why financially supporting a man, whether it looks like letting him move into your place, helping him with his kids, helping him make doctor's appointments, helping him with schoolwork, any of all the above, why doing those things in a patriarchal society is nuts, and why the girls need to keep their purses closed. So, I'm going to start by defining what a patriarchy is, and just to be clear, we is in really probably most places, but since I'm in the United States, I'm just going to put it from their focal point. We absolutely live in a patriarchal society, and to set context of why I say that women should not be financially, materially supporting men, I'm going to define what patriarchy is first. And this is from Merriam-Webster, and there are two definitions that I'm going to read out. The first one being social organization marked by the supremacy of the father in a clan or family, the legal dependence of wives and children, and the reckoning of descent and inheritance in the male line. And the second definition, which is much more broad, is control by men of a disproportionately large share of power. So, again, that definition being the context for the rest of the show. The first definition may be a little harder to digest. It is really wordy and kind of dense in my opinion. So we'll go with the second one that says that defines patriarchy as control by men of a disproportionately large share of power. So again, our society is patriarchal. America was founded off the bias that men have more power and privilege than women and children. And they wanted men to have the power so bad, they legally disenfranchised women and reinforced that socially. The American government was formally founded in 1789. However, women weren't granted the right to vote until June 4th, 1919, when the 19th Amendment was passed and it was ratified on August 18th, 1920. And of course, that really only included white women. So for 130 years, even white women did not have the right to vote in America. Black women didn't get that same privilege until the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And that makes a 176-year difference between the founding of America up to the moment where black women were finally legally able to voice their opinions and wants and needs to the government and actually participate in their civic duty. So for Native American or indigenous women, they got the right to vote in 1962. Asian American women getting their right to vote in 1952. And Latinx American women, which their discrimination was more so, from what I understand, for what I'm read. If I'm wrong, please forgive me. But from what I read and for what I deduced, their discrimination was also based on language. And so there was an extension of the Voting Rights Act in 1975. And so that then assisted Latinx women to be able to jump over their language-based discrimination and get over that hurdle and be able to vote. And also, shout out to my founders of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated for their participation in the Women's Suffrage March. That doesn't really have anything to do with anything. The opportunity was there. I had to do it. But what I really want to focus on when it comes to women getting the right to vote in this country, just to put this into perspective, not only did out the gate, the man in charge, already came from the angle of trying to disenfranchise people based off whatever little differences they could point out. To expect a woman to exist in a place where she's expected to do whatever you say, let you cheat on her, let you abuse her. If she is a woman that does have money, more than likely she has to give it to you because she can't even have a bank account. She has to have children even when she doesn't want to. Marital rape was not always something that the court of law, court of law acknowledged as a crime. So now we have an additional layer of, just like now, women's bodies don't even belong to them. And as hard as it is to prove in the court of law, someone being guilty of rape, even if they actually did do it, that is very hard to prove in court. Back then, they didn't even really have the option of presenting it to the court because in the eye of the law, oh, well, you're his wife. So if he wants to have sex with you, then you have to do it. And that's not the case. That's really harmful. And the church also pushes that, but you know what? That's not what this is about. Let me go back. So, just putting it into perspective, women across the board, every single last group had to wait at least 100 years before they could cast their vote in this society. A society they were expected to labor for and reproduce to create more people to work, but they can't even have any say over who's in office, and these same people are making policies that then affect them and their quality of life. These are the same people that were making the law saying that women couldn't vote and women can't do this and women can't be this and women can't go here and they can't learn this and they can't do this job. And the fact that women had to fight for over more than 100 years just to be able to stand in line at the polling place and cast a vote alone should always make you look at men like, you don't have to be a quote unquote man hater. You don't have to see every man as enemy number one. I do think that you need to be cautious, but to just, I guess, be negative about everything, maybe it's not the healthiest approach. But you as a woman need not ever forget that everything that you have access to today, it wasn't given to you. Women before you had to fight from here to there in order to be able to move freely and have respect in this society. With that being said, there is no reason to be supporting a man when men have always had privileges that women have had to beg and fight and die for. I mean, a group of people trying to disenfranchise another just based off of genitalia lets you know that that's a group that's pretty power hungry. And if you want to be so power hungry, well then, why are you, depending on women? I mean, if you, the man and you run everything and, everybody should listen to you, you're a natural leader, be a natural money getter too. You know what I mean? But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. So, okay. We established how long women had to sit here and not, really have a voice to be properly heard in government. Okay. Now, I want to move on to some different milestones in history regarding women and financial freedom. On Home Street, now known as Mechanics Bank's website, they have some dates and information about financial and property restrictions that have been put on women throughout U.S. history. So up through the early 19th century, women's legal and financial rights were extremely limited. Married women couldn't own property, they couldn't enter into contracts, or even keep their own wages. And let's focus on the not even keep their own wages for just a second. Like I just said, women are expected to give all of this emotional labor, all this labor with children, all this labor in the home. They're expected to, if they're married or if they're in a relationship with the man, they are expected to tend to his every need and, cater to him and hang off the chandelier at night like you're not tired from doing all the stuff you've been doing every day. But these same women, if they were allowed to work, first of all, they weren't being compensated at the same amount as men. And you mean to tell me your wife has to have like 10 or 11 kids because she can't get birth control and y'all ain't got nothing else to do and you don't respect her body? And if she has to work, she can't even keep her money? Can you imagine being a grown woman and you want to order something off Amazon because they having a sale, and you got to go, as a grown woman, you got to go to the next room and tap your husband on the shoulder and ask him if he can put his car information in? I would scream, no, no, I'm not asking you if I can buy anything. This is my money. If my name is on the, what's the thing when you I-9, whatever it is, the paperwork that you fill out to do your direct deposit, if my payroll has my name and my account and routing number for my direct deposit, you're not getting my money. But then again, these were women who didn't have bank accounts. But just, I can't imagine, like I said, working long hours, short hours, medium hours. I can't imagine working any amount of time and earning money, and I gotta hand my money over to this man. I mean, to be honest, is giving pimp. Because what do you mean I gotta go, I gotta go be the person I'm going and making this money, I'm doing this work, and then after I've done all of this, I'm just handing over everything to you because you want it, because you a man and I'm a woman? Whew, I'd rather jump off a cliff. Ain't no way. I'd rather be deceased than be passing my money over to a man. Because if I'm passing my money over to a man, I'm dead inside anyway. I mean, Anyway, moving on. So in the past, when married women inherited property, they couldn't pass it to their heirs after death, in part because they also weren't allowed to write wills. And Connecticut became the first state to grant this right in 1808. And so here's another problem for me. You mean to tell me that women back then, again, couldn't even keep their own money, had to always be pregnant because they didn't have nothing else to do and didn't really, again, have any rights over their bodies, couldn't say no to their husbands? And you mean to tell me after you done made me rip myself from rooter to tutor 15 times to have all these children, I can't even leave anything to them? I can't even make sure that they straight? They got to depend on the daddy to do it. The same daddies that be having families across towns and coming home drunk and beating everybody up and touching their kid and not listening when their wife say no. Those men are the ones that the children are supposed to, oh, I hope he do right by us. He ain't never did it before. If he gonna do anything, he gonna do left by you. He's not gonna do right. So you mean to tell me that these women had to give birth to all these children, put their lives like permanently on hold, never really able to have any freedom, weighed down with all these children, and then the men had the nerve to die a lot of time and leave them as widows with a house full of children? Like, you don't have time to die, sir. Die when they grown. You shouldn't have had all these kids. You don't have time to die. That is so rude to die like that and leave a woman with a whole bunch of kids. Like, I don't want to hear it. You need to come back. And you mean to tell me that these same women, like I said, can't even leave anything to their children to try to hope that their children will be okay after they are gone? I I just I just I'm at a loss for words. I can't believe, I can't fathom an existence where I'm so limited and controlled in that way. And moving on, in 1848, New York passed the Married Women's Property Act, and this allowed married women to retain ownership of their own property and pass it down in a will. Throughout the 1850s, other states began to make these changes, but those rights didn't formally extend to minority women until the 1960s. And another way that women were oppressed was not having access to credit, bank accounts, nor mortgages without a male cosigner. And this wasn't legally addressed until the 60s and the 70s, which is wild to me because I know people that are still walking this earth right now that were born before these limitations were finally fixed in the legal system and in policy. That is wild to me. Again, I cannot imagine as a full-blown adult that goes to work not being able to get a credit card if I want to, have a bank account to deposit my money and save. But what's the I'm blanking. What is it called? Like, the high yields and the Roth. I can't imagine not being able to play with my money and invest the way I want. And I can't imagine not being able to go get myself somewhere to stay without dragging a man around and having him sign off like it's a permission slip and like I'm his child. Like, ooh, the more I research this, the more it make my stomach hurt. I can't imagine having to, please, sir, please give me permission. I'd rather drink some bleach, child, please. No, thank you. And so finally in 1974, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act was passed, and this prohibited creditors from discriminating based on sex, marital status, race, color, religion, national origin, age, or participation in public assistance programs. So finally, in the mid-70s, all women could access the financial resources to get their own property without being attached to a man. And again, I keep saying how crazy it is for me to conceptualize and really think about in my mind, because that wasn't that long ago at all. I just, that really makes me think about how close women being robbed of their rights and freedom really is. And as we are seeing, some of that is already happening, especially with what jumps out immediately in my mind is how Roe versus Wade was overturned. And that just really makes me want to hold on to my freedoms much tighter. And it makes me want to make sure that I am not allowing myself to be further exploited as much as I can, because again, women are presented as laborers. Women are presented as something to be used, something to be resourceful to others, something to abandon yourself or ourselves. Women are expected to abandon ourselves for the sake and service and benefit of others. And that makes me be very anti help a man really do anything, because again, for the past how many every years, women, especially black women, have been fighting tooth and nail to even get some of the access to some of the basic things in order to establish independence and create some type of fruitful way of life for themselves. And men were benefiting from women being limited in the meantime. So no, I'm not going to help you. No, I don't want to, I don't feel bad for you because you're going through something. No, I don't care that you're down on hard times. You have had the advantage for I don't know how long. If you don't know what to do with the home team advantage and you fumble and lose at home, that is on you. You're going to have to hold your L, because I'm not going to break my W in half and give you half and I keep the other half. Absolutely not. If you let me as a woman, as a black woman, if you as a man, let me as a black woman outwork you, out education you, out hustle you, out success you, that is a skill issue on your part. No, I do not feel bad. No, I do not want to hold you down. No, I do not want to pray for you. No, I don't care. You're a grown man. And I beg other women, please keep in mind that, as I just said, they have had the advantage for I don't know how long. If they don't know how to win a game that was rigged in their favor, they're a lost cause. This is a patriarchy. It was set up from the jump for them to always win, for them to always have more, and for them to always be 10 steps ahead. If they decided to blow a lead like the lead that they had, too bad. Stop helping these men. If they can't help themselves, I guess they won't be helped. Keep your purse closed and your legs. And please just let him sing by himself. Don't do him like Rose did Jack and the Titanic. You get on that wood plank, sister. All right, you save yourself and you just let him. Oh, I love you. Hold his hand. Let him go. Let him sink to the bottom. Oh no, I missed him. Rest in peace, Jack. Let him do that. Save yourself. Okay, now, along with financial limitations, obstacles with pursuing higher education were a large barrier between women and our freedom to live as we please, and most importantly, again, without being under a man's thumb. I'm going to get into an article from May 7th, 2025 on bestcolleges.com, and it details some historical context and milestones regarding women's fight to attend college and earn degrees. In 1636, the first American college was founded, and it's what we now know as Harvard University. And for the next 300 years, only white men from prominent families were admitted into the school. And it took until the 1830s before women were formally able to pursue a college education. In 1836, Wesleyan College, I hope I'm saying that right. I think I looked it up and I think that's how you say it. If that is wrong, forgive me. In 1836, Wesleyan College, which is located in Macon, Georgia, became the world's first college created to grant women degrees. However, I do want to note that Wesleyan College had no black women that successfully earned a degree until 1972. Previously in 1965, however, 2 black women were admitted, but only one enrolled, and her name was Pat Brown. However, she withdrew during her first year. I would love to know why she withdrew. I can only imagine, but I would love, and I think I'm going to look that up at a later time, because I bet the stories she had to withdraw during her first year. Yeah, I know. I know they probably was showing their tail down there at that school. Anyway, in 1968, 5 black women, referred to as the first 5, would be the first black graduates in 1972. And their names, and this is from Wesleyan College, because there was a black woman that did get a college degree before in 1972, but I'm just giving more history about the first school for women specifically, and I'll get to the other person in a moment. But as far as the first five, which would, like I said, the first black graduates of Wesleyan College in 1972, and their names are Sonia Tomlinson Holland, Marvette Baldwin Jenkins, Christine Everett. I hope I'm about to pronounce the next person's first name correct. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Dylene Tolbert Taylor and Carolyn McClinton Woodard. And there was another school in the excuse me, early 1830s that were moving women forward in the realm of higher ed. And that other school was Oberlin College, which is located in Ohio. And Oberlin was founded in 1833. Now, Oberlin became the first co-ed college in 1837 when they started admitting women, and women of all races were allowed to enroll 2 years after black male students were allowed to enroll. And then in 1862, Oberlin awarded a degree to Mary Jane Patterson, which made her the first black woman to earn a bachelor's degree. And again, just giving examples of ways that women were disenfranchised, and again they were held back by a lot of societal limitations that were the norm of that time. And with them being held back, again, it was just the manifestation of a patriarchal society that decides that men should have more power over everybody else and ignore the personhood of women and treat them, as objects, accessories, tools of labor, or means to an end. And so bringing it back to the main point, I know I've thrown out a lot of dates and given a lot of information, but I did so to give documented historical context to support why I say stop taking care of men. Stop letting them lean on you when they've always had the upper hand, even in minority communities. Think about it. You have women relatives who some are long gone, some you may have even had the privilege of knowing and loving, and they could still be walking the earth right now. And you have loved ones who could barely breathe without a man's permission. They could hardly be their best selves without the threat of violence from men who wanted them to stay in a self-destructive box. And women today still deal with rage and misogyny, but we have so many more options and way more autonomy than women before us. So to see so many women willingly letting themselves be used and caged by a group that has always had more privilege is wild to me. Some of our mothers, grandmothers, aunties, and godmamas didn't have much of a choice, if at all. They had to be and stay with terrible men that, like I said, abused them, cheated constantly, loaded them up with kids, took their money, or wouldn't let them work, wouldn't let them learn how to drive or leave the house, and who knows what else. Think about who they could have been and what they could have accomplished if only they had access to what we do today. And the thing is, those men were paying the bills if they didn't do anything else, which is largely why they felt entitled to abusing their kids and wives. But today, I'm seeing way too many women, young, old, and in between, into relationships as the breadwinner. As the property owner, as the educated one, as the one with the clean background, and then turn around and stroke the man's ego to make them feel like a quote unquote man. No, 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 never, never, no. If his XY chromosomes and male genitalia isn't enough to make him feel like a quote unquote man, then there's nothing you can do to help him. He has male privilege. Even if he's not white, he still has male privilege. I don't care. It don't matter what part of your city he come from. It don't matter what parent he didn't have, where he didn't go, what he did. He's still a man. He still has male privilege, point blank, period. He has to figure out how to tap into his male privilege. If you could truly help him with that, you wouldn't be a woman. You don't have male privilege as a woman. How are you going to help an actual male use his privilege that you don't have? Please sit down and think about this. It's impossible. You can't help him. He can't help himself. He doesn't want to be helped. He don't want to be better. Okay, let him, I don't know, die or something. I don't know. Who cares? But like, leave him where he's at. He's a bum. It's not your problem. It's not your job to fix. Like, the best thing you can do for him is to leave him alone so he can get himself together. And to be fair, I know a lot of women have been indoctrinated, but at some point, you have to decide if you want to keep being used or taken advantage of, because they will take unless you be like, absolutely not. And I'm not accepting any of the excuses for why a woman should carry a man. Y'all love to say, oh, well, he had a hard childhood and his parents weren't there. And I especially hate with a capital H, capital A, capital T, capital E, bolded, italicized, and underline and put it in red and highlight that after. I hate when my fellow black women say, life is so hard as a black man. There are too many examples of women overcoming hurdles to excuse bummy, underachieving men. Life is absolutely hard as a black man. Life is even harder as a black woman because in addition to racism, black women experience sexism at the same time, and we experience a very unique and very specific branch of misogyny called, I believe it's pronounced misogynoir. Some people say noir because it's like French, but anyway, misogynoir. I'm going to say it like that for the sake of this. And we are the only women that experience it because it is a specific kind of misogyny for black women who are black at the same time, black people who are women at the same time. We cannot separate our blackness from our womanness, and we can't separate our womanness from our blackness. So we experience both of those things. So yes, life is hard. Life is hard for anyone who's not really white. I mean, in America, yeah, okay. And again, there are too many examples of women booming past obstacles that men don't even have to deal with. For example, men get paid more. Even if it's a minority man, he gets paid more than you as a minority woman. Women have babies in degree programs and are often abandoned by the fathers. Deal with childbirth. Unfortunately, a lot of them deal with postpartum depression and will still graduate. I've seen so many pictures of girls in hospitals in labor with a computer sitting up doing homework, and a man will, I couldn't get up and go to my class. It was too early. I couldn't get up at 8 a.m. I ain't got no job. Can I move in with you and your kids? You can move. Knock on the ground and ask the devil if he has a vacancy. That's where you can go to hell. I don't want to hear those excuses. Okay. So sorry if I have limited empathy for a man who will never have to deal with all things pregnancy, not increasing his education. I don't care and I don't want to hear it. Go to school. It doesn't have to be a traditional 4-year university. You can get you an associate's degree, and an associate's degree is still a degree. You can go get you a trade or, some certifications, certificates, whatever you need to do. But you're going to have to do more than twiddle your thumbs on your phone and argue with women on the internet and be on TikTok all day. You're going to have to get up and get it moving. Men will get promoted at work, even if they're not qualified, just off the strength of being a man. So I don't want to hear it when they let women outwork them. I really don't. Women have to go through so much more to prove that they're worthy of career progression, even when they are qualified. Okay? And some single parents are fathers, but single mamas are more often than not the custodial parent. And a lot of single mamas that do the bulk or all of child rearing go on to raise their income, get degrees and or certificates, start successful businesses, buy property, travel, and live a fruitful life with or without a romantic partner. And with that being said, any man that can't stabilize himself without sucking up a woman's resources is unfit for partnership and fatherhood. Okay? And to be honest, their egos can't handle when a woman has or does more anyway. Shout out to the Brooke Ashley. She is one of my favorite YouTubers. I have been listening to her and following her on Twitter for a very long time. But shout out to the doll, because she always says, if you have two, the man needs to have four. And she is absolutely correct, and I absolutely agree. If you make $50,000 a year, he needs 60 and up. But for real, no less than like 55,000. I know times are hard and jobs are not paying. W-2s ain't W-2ing like they used to W-2. I understand, but again, men get paid more, men get promoted more and easier. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. Get your money up. Point blank. Period. If you got this, he need to have this and that. Like, bottom line, if you have your own place, he should too. And he doesn't need to have roommates. Sorry. That's not fair on either his life. It's not fair under a patriarchy. Again, this your system. You don't know how to work it, your problem. Use that higher paycheck that y'all don't be deserving, and use those promotions that y'all don't be deserving. Make something shake and get you your own space where you not jumbled up with a whole bunch of folks like y'all in the sardine can. I don't want to hear your excuses. Make it work or be single. I don't care. If you have at least one degree, him only having a high school diploma is just not acceptable. It's just not. If you have a running car that's not falling apart and it's all the same color and it's not all dented and scratched up and the fender not scraping the ground and it don't make noises, whether it's on or off, he needs the exact same thing. Okay? If you can take yourself on a nice trip, but he can't even take himself out his city, you need to send him about his way. If he can't pass a background check, you need to direct him to an expungement clinic and not into your inner circle. Okay? And to be honest, don't even direct him to that either, because he can find that himself. If he really wants to have his record expunged, and if he really wants to look into that, that is on the world wide of the web. The same phones that they can use to pick up to try to coordinate a time and place for them to have sex with a woman. The same phones they can use to look that up. Don't help them with that either. And I know some may say it's classist or elitist, but there's nothing wrong with wanting someone with a similar lifestyle, similar experiences and education. Now, mistreating people in general settings because of what you think they do or don't have is ridiculous. Like, that's crazy. No, I don't co-sign with that. However, dating is another thing. Also, well, before I move on to what I was about to say, dating is another thing, because dating is optional. You don't have to date. If you don't have your life together where you can have a positive dating experience, you do not have to engage in dating. You can separate yourself. You can opt out for a minute, get yourself together, get everything in order, dip your toe back in and pick back up where you left off. But as a man, dating is expensive, and it should be expensive. Because first of all, the girls don't need to stop shooting y'all shots at men. Some girls say that work for them. I don't believe in it. I don't care what nobody say. If he want me that bad, he just have to come over and tell me. And if he don't, that mean he don't want me that bad. And okay, cool. Thank you for not wasting my time. We are just gonna not talk or be together. I'll be okay. But again, dating is optional, and you are not entitled to be able to date someone and have access to someone just because you want to. If you see this top notch, high earning, jet setting, glamorous lifestyle, and you in your mama basement in the same drawers you've had on for the last 3 days, and it's stuck to your booty because you got like old doo-doo crumbs in your butt crack that you didn't properly wash out, and you're musty, and you're sitting in your mom's dark basement, you haven't had a haircut in months. How dare you think that you can have that glamorous woman that you see? Of course you like how she looks. She's glamorous. She puts effort into her look. She loves herself. She has disposable income to invest in her appearance. You don't get to have her. You don't have what she has. You don't get to speak to that woman. Who cares that you want her? Nobody cares what you want. I want you to get in the shower. I want you to slide a wet rag up your butt. But you don't seem to care about that. Nobody cares what you want. Nobody has to lower their standards for you. Nobody has to, oh, well, just give him a chance. I will give him a chance to go to hell. Nobody has to lower their standards for you, underachiever. No. Anyway, what I was about to say was, men understand that we operate under a patriarchy, which is why they expect dominance over women and children. They tell on themselves. They know what it is. Like, you can talk to a man for less than 5 minutes. You gonna already know how he view women and how he views what he should be able to do just because he has XY chromosomes. And that assuming dominance over women and children, even like complete strangers, that's part of patriarchy. Hence the definitions that I read at the start of this episode. And they're right about that being a part of patriarchy, having control over women and children, as I defined earlier at the beginning. But what's also part of it is men doing well financially, being formally educated, having assets, property or land, having social capital, and being attractive. See, that's the exchange that patriarchy sets up. A woman gives up control and accepts mistreatment because her man does, and gives all of these things, right? These things I just listed. And to be very clear, you shouldn't be letting anybody mistreat you. I don't care how much money they make a year. I don't care what they have, but especially not anybody with less than you. That is just crazy, unnecessary, and don't have to happen. Absolutely not. These are the men who really thirst for being controlling and violent, because those are really the only two avenues that they can take to feel like a quote unquote man, because they know they lack the other things. They know that they're lackluster, and the only way they'll have access to a certain lifestyle is by proxy of someone else. And the someone else is pretty much always a woman, especially if they've worn out their welcome with their female family members. They move on to women in a romantic sense. And if these men believe that they're powerful and control things and people just because they're a man, and are smarter than women just because they're a man, then why can't these men in need go get help from another man? Since men have all the answers, and men have all the power, and men have all the keys, why can't you hit up your good homeboy for some help? Why you gotta go try to beg a woman for some money? Why you gotta go try to drive her car? Why you gotta ask her to bail you out? I thought men had all the power and all the control. Why you not hitting up another man since y'all so powerful? Okay. It's almost like you just the male in some skin, but you really not. You don't really have no pull. You're not really coming with nothing. It's almost like you a loser in the bum. Oh, okay. Yeah, you are. Why you can't go get help from another man? Why can't he move in with his homeboy instead of in with you and your kids? I mean, if it's bros before hoes, why can't he drive his friend's car instead of yours while his car is quote unquote in the shop. It be so many cars in the shop, and these men just swear every single last one of these cars is theirs. Baby, you just don't have no car, sweetheart. You a pedestrian. And it's good to get your steps in. Walking is very healthy for you, but what is not healthy is lying about having a vehicle when the only mode of transportation you have is your 2 feet. Being broke and being carless and being a liar, that's a nasty combination. Real dusty, like, real unfortunate. If he needs a cosigner, he needs to call his daddy, uncle, granddaddy, brother, goddaddy, pastor, mentor, something. And they come to women begging because they know another man will cuss them out. More than likely, another man gonna cuss them clean out, especially if they're not related to them, asking them for anything. And these men, they know that a woman is much more likely to be empathetic and help, and it's incredibly predatory. And men know that they don't respect their counterparts that are underachieving and bummy. Men don't even respect other broke men. Men don't respect other men who are uneducated. Men don't respect other men who don't have, somewhere decent to live and have a fulfilling life and have social capital and present a certain way. Men don't even respect broke men. So there's that. The bums don't even respect themselves either. And they don't respect women that take care of them because they know they're not desirable and can't actually measure up. And so they're already mad at the world for being a male that can't figure out how to benefit from their male privilege. So instead of turning that inward and becoming a better person, because of course that's too much like right, it's much easier and satisfying for them to turn to a woman for what they lack. And when they do work their way into your home, your business, your bank account. Shout out to Kiana. Your home, your businesses, your bank account, girl. Oh, she is such. Anyway, let me not get off because I'll start going on a tangent about them Potomac people and they stress me out enough. When they work their way into your things, they repay you by treating you poorly and at worst abusing you and at the very worst killing you. And I'm being so serious. Like dead serious. No pun intended. They will do that. They're crazy. And they will literally take everything from you, including your life. Like I already said, men who lack can only really access quote unquote masculinity and masculinity as we know it through control and violence. You being a constant reminder of what he should have been able to do will only anger an already disgruntled person. And to be clear, that's not me blaming women for domestic violence. But I do want the girls to please see the forest for the trees and be very, very strict with what men are allowed to get to know you. Any man can be dangerous and malicious or violent, but a man who is okay with leeching off of a woman is 100% her op. I will say it again. Any man, any grown, able-bodied, able-minded man, any man can be dangerous. However, a man who is okay with letting a woman take care of him, Mr. Head of Household, Mr. Leader, Mr. Patriarchy, any man that's okay with mooching off of a woman is 100% her op, and there is no other way to put it. Hate to break it to you. If you are laying next to someone who has less, does less, that man hates you. He's jealous. He's mad. You trigger him. Any man that's okay with that, he's coming to destroy her. Point blank, period. He's jealous. He resents her and will absolutely try to destroy her. Absolutely. When a woman outflourishes a man under a patriarchy, the last thing she should do is partner with him. Please, if for nothing else, don't have a baby with him. If you have one by a raggedy man with nothing to pass down but failure, don't have another one. Don't do it again. You messed up. It's fine. Everybody messes up. Everybody mistakes show up in different ways. Don't make the same mistake twice. There's no such thing as making the same mistake twice. If you do it again, it's a conscious decision. Don't do it again. Please. Don't have no more kids by him. Ever. Look at Kelly Clarkson, Jill Scott, Mary J. Blige, Adele, Halle Berry, Madonna, Britney Spears, Toni Braxton, Mel B, Janet Jackson, Sherry Shepherd, Wendy Williams, Journey Smollett, and currently Candy Burris. Marrying down, dating down, having children down, all of that, it doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. Historically, it's ridiculous because these women are breaking glass ceilings that men never had to overcome. How does one squander an advantage like that? How, again, the game was always rigged for you to win. The rules have changed for you to win. And you still cannot figure out. A man who lets a woman outwork him is a man who fails an open book test. Anybody who fails an open book test is an idiot, an imbecile, a nincompoop, a nitwit, a dunce, a dummy, a fool, stupid, just a waste of space. And as I say, don't entertain these kind of men. Don't let them, try to talk you into helping them, and don't try to let them sell you a sob story. Also, don't let pitiful, desperate women tell you to settle for being a sugar mama. The only sugar mama we need is the character from the Proud Family. We don't need no more. She holding it down real good. Been holding it down like my whole childhood. She don't need no help. Okay? And you have to get to know a man before knowing if you're mentally, emotionally, and spiritually compatible. But the stuff on paper, if y'all aren't compatible or equally yoked when it comes down to income, education, lifestyle, ownership, assets, and social and cultural capital, then that's all you need to know. Nothing else matters. I don't care what anybody else says. Nothing else matters. Anybody who tries to convince you to settle for companionship just to be in something is somebody who is also an op. They cannot be trusted. They probably feel like they have settled in their relationships, but they're too scared or embarrassed or broke or whatever to get out of it. So now they want to see you be down with them. Give them the Jack treatment. Get cozy on your plank of wood, and you let them go, and you let them be down at that ocean with Jack. Let them freeze with him. Don't listen to them. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200, because it is better, so much better, more peaceful, and if for nothing else, 1,000% safer to be single than settling for partnership. And just, again, please stop getting pregnant by anybody. Ladies, like young, old, in between. Not only should you not be partnering with nor entertaining men with less than you, you definitely should not procreate with an underachiever. You do not need to leave every man you've exchanged numbers with a whole new human to take care of. And you'll be taking care of them alone because the bum ass daddy can't even take care of himself. And now you have two dependents because the baby and the grown ass man both need you to survive. In order for a woman to be free, and I mean truly unburdened, I believe that she, one, needs to know women's history, because she needs to learn how her gender and race, and also, even her sexuality intersect, and, other type of demographic information. She needs to understand how those affect women like her currently and in the past. Which is why I wanted to set the tone of this episode by defining patriarchy and giving documented historical examples of how women's quality of life has suffered in the past. Because of how patriarchal ideals were being enforced, their suffering was magnified when they largely complied with the system. Rights were gained and advanced only when women incessantly fought for change. And of course, I can't get into everything in one episode, but I wanted to hit some of the big things to show just how many more options and how much more freedom we have now. Women don't need to be with terrible men now, especially bums, because we really can do bad all by ourselves now. And number two, for what I think women need to do in order to be truly free and unburdened is we must move in ways that show how much we adore and value ourselves inside and out. And I know that like that's really generic and vague and easier said than done. And if you have not had examples around you of how to do that or what it looks like to love yourself and put yourself first, like, you know, beyond just being a cliche quote, but how to actually put that in action, I personally suggest you start with how you think about yourself and women in general. I believe it's called the cognitive behavior triangle, and I'll check in just a moment. But the things that we do and say, are actions, right? Those things start, those actions start as thoughts. Those thoughts then become emotions. And those emotions are acted out in the actions, which are the things that we do and or say. Real quick, I did check, and it is the cognitive behavioral triangle. As I was saying, I think a good place is to start with your thoughts and reframe your thinking. It'll, you know, it's not something that's going to be immediate or instant, but you have to start in order to make progress and get somewhere. And you can also do stuff like put in effort or more effort into your appearance, because as cliche as it is, me personally, I do feel better when I look better, and I really do think that like when you look good, you feel more alive, you feel more prideful. I just feel like it really is a mood booster to like look at yourself and know that you look good and to go out into the world with that confidence. So I always tell people, I know that stuff is really expensive. You may not be able to do everything that you want, but you can start, you know, with a few things. You can like, you know, slowly start building up your wardrobe, slowly, you know, start collecting items, or you know, if you, I don't know, if you want to get your teeth fixed, please don't get those calculator piano key chiclets that the girls like to get. Please don't. Please go see a dentist that will tell you what you need, please. And if they try to say veneers, tell them no and ask them about like crowns or something instead, please. But you know, if you want to, you know, dye your hair, cut your hair, get your hair more healthy, whatever you feel like you need to do, lose weight, gain weight, whatever, get surgery, do what you feel like you need to do. Invest in your hobbies and interests. Like, give yourself something to look forward to outside of like work and family and being with other people. Carve out some things that are like for you to enjoy by yourself, and you know, be in your own energy and enjoy your own company. And therapy will be your best friend. Like, I know that more people are open to going to therapy. More people seem to be going to therapy. But I know that a lot of people still are not comfortable with, you know, the idea of going and talking to somebody about, you know, the things that are going on in your mind. But as somebody who has been consistently going to therapy for years now, I can 1000% say that yes, you know, a lot of change and a lot of things are because I chose to make, you know, different choices, or I chose to go in a certain direction. However, my foundation became more sturdy and I became better equipped to do those things because of my work that I've been doing with my therapist. So I am always going to advocate for people to go to therapy because I've seen it work in others, and I know for a fact that it works with myself. Like, I will always advocate for people to do it because I and the people around me have been able to definitively see the benefit of me going. So that's my soapbox about that for today. But just, go sit on the lady couch. And now you don't even have to go in. You probably can do virtual therapy. You can be in the comfort of your own, home. You can save an outfit, save gas, save miles on your car, and, just talk about the things. But anyway, and I think another good place to start when I, going back to when I was saying, start with, how you think about stuff and reframing your thoughts, is to consider and ask yourself who was the first person to tell you or show you that any man is better than no man. Like, if there is anybody that comes to mind, like, really think about them. Like, how did you feel like in your chest and your stomach just now when they popped up in your mind? Like, are your shoulders kind of like tensing up when you think about that person? Are you, I don't know, maybe experiencing like resentment or frustration or a bit of anger or sadness at the thought of them and their choices? Like, do you really want to be like them? You may love them. You may spend time with them. You may be close to them. But do you really want to be like them? Do you want to exist in this world like they exist? Do you want to make decisions and have them affect you like their decisions have affected them? Honestly. Do you or do you not? You will probably need to distance yourself from the women around you that normalize playing themselves for the sake of a relationship. I'm not saying you have to completely cut them off. I'm not saying you have to go disrespect them. I'm not saying you have to harm them or any of those things. However, if you want to be different than what you are accustomed to, what you have been taught, what you have been shown, and the people around you are still in the same places mentally, behaviorally, spiritually, you more than likely will have to distance yourself. Again, it doesn't mean you gotta just completely cut contact, but you're going to have to go into, your own kind of like bubble to really focus on the things that you need to learn, the things that you need to change, the things you need to figure out about yourself and how you want to rebuild yourself to be the person that you know that unfortunately the people around you can't really show you how how to be that. So, it's just important to know that in order to do those things, it calls for some. Got caught off guard by a text notification there. Could have sworn I silenced my phone before I started back recording. My apologies. Anyways, I was saying it's fairly difficult to, make progress in an environment that calls the things you need to progress from to begin with. And not that it's impossible, but I feel like any, growth or progress that you do make will still be stunted because that environment in itself is not conducive to being what you need it to be in order to, grow the way you want. And to be honest, if you decide that you want to be a different kind of woman than the women before you and or around you, there's a fairly likely chance, if not very likely, that they'll become defensive and, they'll become offended and they'll take your development and your choice to be different and not make their same decisions. They'll take that as an attack and that could, cause them to try to say and or do sabotaging things because you doing what they didn't have either the knowledge or the courage or the resources to do sometimes can trigger them. And again, that's not to say that you can't blossom in spite of those things, but it's going to make the journey, a lot more difficult and it's going to be a challenge as is. I'm very big on not overcomplicating things if they don't have to be because, the things that are out of my control are, they're going to find their ways to complicate my life. So I just really don't like to go out of my way to, have my own personal hand in my life being complicated. So if that looks like me, looking at what's around me or who's around me and considering, if I want to do that, or if I want to do something different, or if I want to, take some of it and leave some of it where it is. That's a decision that I'm willing to make because I'm committed to being the type of person that I, feel like I need to be. So, you may be fortunate where the women around you, even if you are doing something different than them, they may still support you anyway. Like I will hope that for everybody, but I know that that's not always the case. Most people, again, if they're not, especially if they're not happy with their lives and they, feel like they didn't do everything they wanted to do or everything they should have done, and they see you, taking the reins, standing in your power and making things happen for yourself, it's just human nature. I would just say, don't be surprised if they show their hand. It's somebody that, doesn't really want you to do better. Moving on. I think another layer that leads to women sacrificing themselves to lay claim to a man is internalized misogyny. And real quick, just to run down the definition of misogyny from Merriam-Webster, misogyny is the hatred of, aversion to, or prejudice against women. And so internalized misogyny is when women subconsciously adopt gender bias that favor men and harm women, even when the woman is themselves. Furthermore, internalized misogyny shows up in different ways, and one of those ways is when a woman is prioritizing their boyfriend slash husband slash baby daddy, whatever. And that's not to be confused, again, with the healthy amount of being supportive. But I'm talking about putting your significant other's career, comfort, emotions, etc. above your own, even down to performing the bulk of household work, childcare, financial responsibility, and emotional labor. Another layer that encourages and reinforces internalized misogyny is organized religion. Surprise, surprise. Religion intends to program from childhood that men are inherently or magically superior. And this looks like a few couple of ways. A few being presenting men as the head and women being the neck. I always thought that was stupid. There is really no explanation. I don't care how they try to set that up. I always feel like that was giving women are beneath men, no matter how they tried to slice it or dice it. I'm like, yeah, no, I reject that because I'm not under anybody. Like male, female, child, adult, old, young. It doesn't matter. I'm not beneath anyone. Presenting men as the head of household, which is so crazy to me because even if the woman is more educated, makes more money, has more assets, comes from a more esteemed or successful family, even if she's bringing more to the table, religious institutions will still try to convince the woman that she needs to submit to the will of the man and he is leading, even though she keeping the lights on and keeping the refrigerator stocked. But what do I know? Another way is conversation about women performing for marriage. Oh, don't wear this and come to church, find a man in church, don't say this, don't be this way, don't be like those other girls, don't do this, don't go here. And then once you get married, you're supposed to submit. It's a never ending hamster wheel of performing for a man. Like in Coming to America when they had Vanessa Bell Calloway hopping on one leg, barking like a Yorkie, at the command of a man. It's always something else that's being put on a woman's plate in religion, and another bullet point on her laundry list of things she needs to do to appease to a man. Another thing that participants in organized religion have a very bad habit of is accusing shapely, glamorous women or women that don't carry sexual shame and accusing them of tempting men, especially in the church. Meanwhile, it doesn't really matter if the woman in question has on a two-piece, a crop top, a deep cut dress, a sweatsuit, something that's see-through. She could be wearing a garbage bag like she in the Missy Elliott video. If that man has a lust problem, and the onus is on him, he's the one with the problem, not the woman, he's going to look and lust after her and want her. And if he really dirty, he's going to pursue her no matter what. She could be wearing, if I'm not mistaken, what is called a burqa, when people or women in the Middle East or Islamic women wear those outfits where their entire bodies are covered with that fabric and the only thing that you can see is their eyes. A woman could walk past a lustful man wearing that and he will still want her. It does not matter. If he is nasty with no impulse control, if he has a sexual addiction, if he has a lust problem, if he sees women as sexual objects and sexual means to a sexual end, he's going to see them like that no matter what they wear. So if you are laying next to a man that you feel like you need to police how women, present themselves when he's around, you need to leave him. And if you're not going to leave him, you need to be quiet and stop hating on the glam girls. Thank you very much. Moving on. Another way that internalized misogyny is upheld in church is when a woman has to come before the church to apologize for a sexual quote unquote sin while the man she did it with does not. Or when she gets completely kicked out of the church, but he gets to stay. Or when teenage girls get pregnant and again they have to come before the church to apologize, but the people that they're pregnant by is silent for them. Yeah, the church get that real bad. If you a church that makes women do that, you need to start paying taxes. You are raggedy and you deserve suffering. Moving on. Another thing that the church does is those conferences that some churches have for single women to find a husband, charging them and taking advantage of how desperate some women are because they're not married yet. Let's be clear. Shout out to Karen Huger. I don't think that desiring companionship is inherently bad, but let's be honest. A lot of religious institutions, especially in the Bible Belt, push marriage like dealers were pushing dope back in the 80s. Real quick, my mama was going to a church years ago. I'm so glad she stopped going. I tried to tell her from the jump, they're giving cult vibes. They're off. The people in the congregation are giving, they don't have their own brain. That pastor's giving grandiose narcissists, if I had to take a guess. Don't think you should be spending your Sundays there. Definitely don't think you should be giving them their money. One of the many things about that quote unquote church that just really rubbed me wrong was the way that they are obsessed with marriage. And I do mean obsessed. They are always talking about, you need to get married. You need to get married. If you're dating someone, the Bible says that God would rather you burn than defile the bed, or whatever the verse is. I don't even feel like looking it up because I don't care. It doesn't matter. They encourage people who have not been knowing each other long at all to hurry up and get married, because if you want to have sex, you need to get married to this person that's a virtual stranger. And a lot of the people in their congregation fall for that. And I just I used to just look at them upside their head and shake my head and just be like, wow, you really are under spells. Like, that's unfortunate. They're not going to get me though. And unfortunately, like that church in particular, a lot of them succeed in convincing a lot of women and men, to be honest, that being paired with a man will elevate you or give you purpose. And actually, now that I really think about it, the Christian church definitely rewards married women by treating them better than single women. Regardless of what a single woman, what she does for the church, what she has accomplished in her life up to this point, there will be overt and covert instances where her not being married will be questioned and judged. She could find a cure to cancer. She could solve world hunger. The people in their church are not going to care too much about that, because all they care about is that there is no wedding band on your left ring finger. Oh no, that's the end of the world. We have to do something about this. Let us find any man, even if he not cute, even if he 2 feet tall, even if he ain't got no teeth, even if he ain't got no money. Let's find someone with XY chromosomes for you to just get with, because oh my gosh, single woman, you need a chaperone. How dare you walk alone without a male owner? Just dumb. And think about it, even if the marriage in question is horrible, it's likely to still be exalted and touted as something that single women should envy and aspire to. And not only that, but I have to also touch on how members within a quote unquote mainstream religious community will try to convince women to stay in dysfunction. I think of a really recent example is Amy. I think her last name is, I don't think that's her real last name. The one that's married to Dwight Howard, they got that last name that I don't think is hers, and whatever she calls herself trying to do. I think of the part of that video when she was saying that she, thought about leaving him a long time ago, but people were telling her, no, that's your husband, it's your marriage, don't give up, don't leave. Even though I don't feel sorry for her, because you should have listened to Royce. Dwight Howard has a lot of bad stuff out there on him. You thought you were going to be different, and now he's showing you exactly why all them other people have grievances with him. Do not feel sorry for her. You a clown. You went to the stupid fair, you won a stupid prize, that's on you. But that stood out to me, how she was saying that she was, telling people about the stuff that she was going through with him, but they were telling her not to leave him. I also think about Tina Campbell from Mary Mary. I rewatched their reality show from the beginning a few months ago, and of course I got to the part where Tina found out that her husband had been cheating on her with all them different people when she would be on the road. And the way that Erica, their mother, and who knows who else were getting in her ear, were getting in Tina's ear, telling her, don't give up on your marriage, don't leave, don't give up, fight for your marriage. She's not the one that went and cheated. She didn't hold a gun to that dusty man's head and tell him to put his penis in people while she's trying to make money, more money than he making. Why should she have to stay with him and be tortured with the fact that she doesn't trust him just because the church wants her to? Who cares? The church is not the one that has to live with him. The church is not the one whose sexual health was put at risk when he decided to have sex with other women. And again, going back to what I said about if you want to do something different, sometimes you have to get away from the people around you. I'm really not surprised that Erica was trying to convince Tina to stay, because Erica admitted that Warren had cheated on her and got his woman pregnant. So this man was having unprotected sex with someone else that he not even supposed to be having protected sex with her. But he didn't even have the decency to do that. And then coming back home having unprotected sex with you. But she said that the woman lost the baby. Now, I don't know. I wasn't there. But I'm like, did she lose the baby, or did y'all make her get rid of it? The world will never know. I guess they probably made her sign the NDA too, because I'm pretty sure, she would have been trying to sell that to the blog. So who knows how they wrapped it up. But I guess Erica felt like, well, no baby, so, we can move on. Don't listen to these women that let men step over them. Don't, because listening to them, you will too end up with footprints all over you like they have all over them. And I'm pretty sure there are like a lot of other pop culture, celebrity, like, I don't know, really, well-known examples of women about to leave men and somebody convincing them to stay. Oh my God, Married to Medicine. When Simone was first about to divorce Cecil, and everybody, no, fight for your marriage, no, don't do it, don't leave. If Simone and Cecil would have got a divorce, it would not be the end of the world. Neither one of them would die. And to be honest, they've been married so long, if they did get a divorce, they probably would pull a Nene and Greg and get back together. And maybe that's what they need. I think they need some time apart, because Cecil does not appreciate Simone. And I don't even care for Simone like that no more. I stopped liking Simone a long time ago. However, the way that I feel like Cecil and those boys take her for granted, they should not have tried to convince her to stay with him. And in my opinion, Simone do whatever she want, right? I don't pay her bills. She ain't got to listen to me. I think Simone should have left right then when she first thought about it. But again, what do I know? But I've heard so many anecdotes from women saying that they endured constant disrespect and or abuse because people in the church told them to quote unquote fight for their marriage or pray over their marriage because the devil was quote unquote attacking their marriage. Meanwhile, the devil attacking their marriage is their raggedy husbands. These compounding factors groom women to be willing to carry a man on her back and in her wallet versus being with no one until someone of substance and good character comes along just to satisfy societal pressure. And it's dangerous because conditioning women to sacrifice themselves to be partnered with the man often leads to abuse and homicide. Now, like I said earlier, even if a man does well for himself, that doesn't give him license to treat you poorly. However, one who can't even offer material things or financial security, being with a man that cannot do those things at the very bare minimum, is just a double whammy that is unacceptable. It unnecessarily complicates your life because men with nothing to offer don't deserve access to you anyway. Unmotivated underachievers only bring their dark cloud to come rain on your head. As I wrap up, I want to quickly get into why I'm so passionate about wanting to see women wise up and practice self-preservation. I don't know. Maybe it's because women can be so powerful and amazing and brilliant and have such fulfilling lives when they're empowered, regardless of their relationship status. Then, if they do date and or marry, they're much more likely to make smart and safe decisions with who they allow in. And, anything can happen. You can do everything right, and the man, can still, or the relationship can just not, be a good fit for you and not work out. But when a woman is empowered, regardless of her relationship status, and doesn't depend on that to feel empowered, she's able to leave much faster when she sees that a situation, just isn't something that she needs to be in. I feel like in TV media, pop culture, especially on social media, my God, especially on TikTok, and even in everyday life, I see way too many instances where women are dumpster diving for companionship or settling. And too many times, those women eventually come out and say how she was taking care of a man and possibly his kids, and he repaid her by absolutely terrorizing her. And it's even worse when she has kids and they're suffering because of her desperation. Like, it shatters my heart into pieces when I read or watch about a bright, successful woman with so much going for herself being taken out by a bum that doesn't even have a ball of lint in his pocket, or by a man with more children than dollars, or a man that doesn't have literacy skills beyond the middle school level. Because instead of buying a man gifts to prove yourself to him, you could have bought yourself something nice or something for your children if you have them. Instead of providing free shelter to a grown-ass able-bodied man, help unhoused women and children find shelter if you want to help somebody have somewhere to stay so bad. I mean, my gosh. Instead of paying a man's child support, use that money to take yourself on a trip and see the world. Those are not your children. Can you file them on your taxes? That's too bad. He's either going to pay that child support or he's going to be in arrears and go to jail or get his check garnished. Oh well, that's on him. He should have thought about that before he had unprotected sex with their mother. Sucks for him. Taking the reins of scheduling his doctor's appointments is a misuse of your energy, because you could be scheduling, beauty maintenance for yourself instead. Who cares if he goes to the dentist? If he don't and his teeth start falling out and his breath stink, then mean you leave him. That's his fault. It's not your job to schedule his prostate exam and his colonoscopy and his physical and his eye appointment. You could be scheduling yourself a facial or making you a nail appointment. He needs to figure that out. I think I've made my point here. All I'm just saying is that the best thing a woman can do is prioritize what's best for her and do for herself. Sidebar, I do understand that gets tricky if children are involved. Tricky, not as easy, but still very possible. The worst thing she can do is prioritize a man, whether that's looking for one or trying to keep one. Because all you'll find in that state are the worst ones that you could possibly come across. And I think another reason why I'm so anti-settling and dating down is because I hate seeing the work that women before us did be in vain. Quick personal tidbit about me. My great-grandparents were sharecroppers for a portion of their lives, and they also were farmers. They did end up getting like blue-collar jobs after that, but of course they did not pay a lot, especially back in those times. My grandparents survived, but did not do well financially. So my parents struggled until they were adults and could stabilize themselves. Now, my mama was the first person in her family to get a college degree that we know of. I don't know if my daddy was the first in his family, but he is one of the very few people in his immediate family to get a degree. My parents busted their asses double overtime to give us a life that is the complete opposite of what they experienced. And I don't take that for granted. For me to let a man of all things use my resources and ruin the progress that's been made in my family would be so disrespectful to the sacrifices and work that was done to give me comfort and security. I just I just can't be so reckless with what I've been blessed with. Like, I'm sorry not, because I'm really not sorry, but that's just something that it does not make sense in my mind. I cannot come to a place where I can behave in that way. And with that being said, I will end with this. Broke is for bones. Broke is for the ice cream machine at McDonald's late at night. Broke is not for men. And if a man does decide that broke is for him, then he is not for you. Okay? I just want the girls to recognize how much they should not contribute to a man's survival. Please consider how much better your life and emotional state would be if you guard yourself from bombs. Historically, it doesn't make sense. Ego-wise, it's just not going to work. And personally, it's counterproductive, it's self-destructive, and it's often dangerous. So I'm going to stop it right here. And as I close out, I want to thank you for listening. I hope you got something out of this. Like, I'm not just ranting and rambling. Like, I really, oh Lord, I wish I could just jump into the girls and be like when Plankton, I think he was in SpongeBob brain pulling them levers, controlling him. Sometimes I wish I could do that to the girls, but I know I cannot, and I have to let that go. You cannot control other people. I should calm down. But I do hope that you got something out of this. If anything, I hope it makes you think, and I hope it makes you consider what is best for you as a woman and how you can live your life in a way where you are having the experiences that you want, accomplishing the things that you desire to do, but also moving in a way where you are protecting yourself, putting yourself first, and practicing self-preservation. Fingers crossed. It won't take me this long to post the next episode. But until next time, I'm out.